this, flip it around. All right, so you guys can see my screen, right? Like if I open up my terminal here, y'all can see this?
Hmm.
Okay. Okay, so we are simultaneously both recording and sharing my screen. Okay, all right, then we're good to get started on whatever this is going to be. Well, welcome. I'm going to rely on you guys that are in the Hangouts and in the classroom to let me know if there's any technical difficulties via the Hangouts, if other people can suddenly not hear. This will be recorded, inshallah. I don't know how well that's going to work, and so I'll send it out after this as soon as I figure out how to upload it to YouTube. All right, so we're going to start this morning. Ethan says it's another. Should I be watching this conversation? I'm not going to watch this conversation. We're going to start this morning by going over Mongo, and this afternoon do Mongoose. So it's weird not being able to like show you guys that are in person what I'm actually looking at, but y'all can see it here. So I'm just going to talk into this thing. So essentially Mongo, like Sean should have introed yesterday, is considered a NoSQL database. So there aren't tables or joins or these things that we'll discover next week on SQL. So it's sort of hard to explain NoSQL when you don't know SQL, because the descriptor for NoSQL is that it's not something that you don't actually already know yet, which is a little strange. So the one thing that I probably should have had you guys do yesterday is to actually download and install Mongo. At times in the past when I've done lessons on Mongo, this has been the most difficult part, is actually the installation of it. So you are literally going to download this database to your computer and then download this Mongo driver that is going to, listen for additions to the actual database itself, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a bunch of directions here for if you're using a Mac. I highly recommend that you use this package manager called Homebrew. It's not the same thing as like a package manager that you would use for like NPM or Bower or those kind of things. It's more of things that you would install on your computer itself, not just packages that you would use for coding. So that's something you can look at. Windows users, you're on your own. No, I'm just kidding. Just ask Paul. I'm sure actually he'd be really helpful with some of this stuff if you have difficulties. So the idea of Mongo is it kind of works off of this hierarchy where we have at the top we create databases. So per application you would have a database. So if we're thinking about like the beer review app, for example, we would have a database for the application, just one of them. Below that, we would have several different collections as part of this database. So honestly, this is a lot like Backbone, sort of the way you would model data, where you have your collections and then documents within those collections. And so, for example, if we're using the beer review app, our collection would be the beers collection or the reviews collection. And then within each of those collections, reviews and beers, we would then have singular beer and review documents. So it's document based, which means that we're dealing with mainly JSON is what we're going to be storing. So the cool thing that a lot of people like about using Mongo, at least for this stage of the learning process, is that we can literally program our entire application in just JavaScript. So when we write Mongo queries, we're literally writing JavaScript. We don't have to learn a new language to use the database. So there's pros and cons to that. Primarily, people think of Mongo as a database that's used for scaling very large sets of data. Yet you miss out on some of the power that SQL has to like make individual queries for things. Sorry, I'm getting Slack messages, die. So anyways, those kind of questions about why should we use this, SQL versus Mongo, those are good things to review from yesterday. And really, when we come back to SQL, those are conversations to be had then with Sean, because then you'll have a bigger picture of both these things. But so this is going to be your main hierarchy that we're going to be using for Mongo. Now, to actually get everything all set up, and really this will be short, I will show you how you might do that from our terminal. So if I navigate here to our terminal, I'm even going to go into, it doesn't matter where you open it. You're going to ultimately want two different windows for your terminal. So if I press Command T, I can actually have two different tabs. Or if I press Command N, I can have two different windows here. Can everyone see both of those windows? Okay, cool. And I can navigate to the home folder, doesn't matter. I don't know, just make sure that I can show there's a separation here. And one of them, after I do my installation, I'm going to type in Mongo D. Mongod is what it looks like. So Mongo D. If you hit enter on that, you're going to see a bunch of stuff that essentially gets logged inside the terminal. If you were to actually read through the different data that's happening on here, the last thing that you see is that it is waiting for connections on port 27017. So that's going to be the default port that Mongo connects to. Essentially, it's waiting for us to start writing and reading from the database via this port on our local machine. So this is a good thing. It means your server's running. In the future, you might get issues with if you don't shut down your Mongo server properly, then you'll have to write some code to go in and kill it manually. And we'll definitely encounter that, and we'll walk through it then. But there's some useful terminal commands that you can use to help you do that. So we're essentially going to leave that window running on its own, and primarily we won't touch it at all. Now, there's a few ways that we can actually insert code into our Mongo database. And the first way that we're going to do that is the most primitive way, which is the shell. Kind of like we have the node shell where we can execute node right on in the terminal. We can also execute Mongo queries right in the terminal. So as before, to start up the server, we wrote Mongo D. Now I'm just going to write Mongo, just like I would with the node shell, and hit enter. And it's going to say connecting to test. So this is just, it first initializes in a database called test. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thanks. Who's waiting? Oh, Ethan. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Ethan. This is going to be recorded, so anything you missed out on, you'll get. All right. I don't see his name either. Well, they'll get recordings. Okay, so now we're connected to the Mongo shell, and I can essentially start running commands now. So the first thing that we're going to learn today is this command show dbs, and this is going to show me all the different databases I have. So I've got a bunch of random things, and I don't even know what I have. So these are different databases that we can connect to and utilize. So going back to that diagram, this is showing us this level. So in other words, this is sort of application level. These are all the different applications I have inside of my computer locally that are using Mongo. And I've just named them different things depending on what it is. I guess Joey had one from last cohort. I don't know why. So to actually use one of these databases, I can say, let's see, let me just find one real quick. Beers, for example. I can say use beers, and then we'll say switched to DB beers. So now I've sort of navigated into the beers database. And now I can type in show collections. So that will take me down to this next level, right? So within my beers database, it's telling me now that I've got beers, reviews, and users. This thing called system.indexes, which shouldn't it be indices? Indexes, is that a thing? Indices, right? Shame on you, Mongo. Anyway, this is internal, so you'll always see this, and I think it's just an internal way that Mongo is utilizing, I don't know, method for indexing these different collections. Now, if I want to actually see what's in these collections, I can do db, which is my current database, .beers, .show. Show is going to be the method that we invoke to see all of these things. Oops. .find. Why is it lagging? Hold on, maybe I forgot this actually. Because you don't do this a lot. db.users.find. Oh, okay, maybe I don't actually have any beers. That's the deal here. I picked the wrong. Told you guys this one would be. Maybe books. Let's try that. Use books, db, show collections, db.books.find. Yay! All right, and it showed me I got a couple books going on here. So you'll notice that the actual data that I get back, these are going to be representative of documents. So we're now in that third level of the hierarchy, looking at individual documents. And documents are essentially just, man, sorry, I'm getting all these text messages and things. People are worried I'm going to die from the hurricane. It's kind of them. These documents are represented by individual JSON objects, essentially. So here we've got a few different attributes. We've got a underscore ID. So this is beautiful, right? Essentially before, when we've been using our applications client side, we've had to generate these dummy IDs. Luckily for us, Mongo generates an ID for us using this underscore ID thing. And it's technically called an object ID, but this is the unique ID to identify that specific document. Then we've got some attributes that we defined ourselves. Title, we just called it book one, author, author one, and then we have this reviews array, which is full of object IDs. Now, that kind of stuff you don't need to worry about right now. We'll go over that in the future. So today's lesson is primarily about figuring out how to have Mongo installed, how to start the Mongo server in one window here, and then how to connect to the Mongo shell in the other window here via Mongo. And then to run a few basic commands to get up a database and collections and documents going. So we'll mainly be picking apart these little pieces of Mongo and looking at how it works. So by the end of this, we'll be able to do a few different fancy sort of queries of Mongo. But the main thing that's going to be helpful for us is when we get to Mongoose. Mongoose is going to be the sort of the library that allows us to model our objects and model these Mongo documents for Node. So Mongoose is actually going to be the connection for us between connecting this Mongo database to Node. So until then, we don't really have anything practical yet to do with Mongo, but we will starting this afternoon. Now, any questions? And note, for whatever reason, I cannot hear any of the people on Hangouts, so it's just you.
Hey, can you hear me? Aaron?
I think it
That's,
muted us.
I mean, I guess you could like message in a question.
Can you hear us?
Should I have a problem downloading on my Windows?
Sorry, I turned off my microphone earlier.
If you do zoom me,
I didn't realize you wanted us to
I don't
talk.
know. I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding. Ethan, no, he can't hear us. Yeah, sorry. If you have a problem downloading Windows, let me know. I'm going to be honest. It's going to be really difficult to figure it out remotely. But we will prevail. Ask Paul. Joking, not joking. I mean, come on. He's like a Google-trained IT professional. Like, you know, he should know what he's doing, right? Lindsay says no. I'm just kidding. Anything else? All right. We're here. So Slack is going to be our friend today. So if you have problems, people, put it in Slack. I'm going to upload this short little video that's may or may not be useful to YouTube for you. Thank you for bearing with me through this hurricane. Don't die. Get sparkling water. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, there's Carrington. Okay, bye.